The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound that broke the near-absolute silence in operating room 3. The cold fluorescent light shone down on the solitary figure of Dr. Samuel Carter, or Sam, as he stood motionless beside the operating table. The patient, a young man involved in a motorcycle accident, had been successfully operated on. The wounds were closed, and now all that was left was for him to wake up. But Sam didn't leave. He was waiting for something else. And then it appeared. Not with a sound, but with a change in the air. A chill crept into the temperature-controlled room, bringing with it a sense of primal fear. From the corner of his eye, Sam saw a figure form beside him. A woman. Her blood-streaked face was close, so close he could feel her ice-cold breath on his cheek. Her eyes and teeth dripped with a dark, thick, red liquid. "It's time," her voice whispered in Sam's mind, not through his ears. "You know what to do. You need to pay your debt." Sam's whole body trembled, a fierce internal battle raging behind his glasses and surgical mask. He glanced at the young man lying still. A life, a future, everything he had sworn to protect. "No," he whispered, "not him. He's too young." The woman laughed, a gruesome sound that echoed in his mind. "The choice was never yours, Samuel. You accepted the deal. Now drink his blood." An invisible force seized Sam's neck, forcing his head down. He resisted, his muscles tensing, but it was futile. A hunger, a thirst he had never known rose from the depths of his stomach, screaming to be satisfied. The smell of fresh blood from the patient's surgical wound suddenly became irresistibly sweet. He closed his eyes, and in the darkness he saw images of his parents, of the mounting bills, of the promise of a better life. In the next moment, Dr. Samuel Carter's reason completely shattered. He bent down and began to drink. When he looked up, the woman was gone. The chill had dissipated. But the most horrifying thing remained. The young man's body on the operating table was shriveled, desiccated, his gray skin clinging to his skeleton like a thin cloth. He looked like a centuries-old mummy. How do I explain this?" Sam whispered, trembling, looking at his own bloody hands. The woman's voice echoed again, distant but clear. "Say whatever you want. Now no one will doubt your word." And she was right. Sam regained his composure with frightening speed. He ran to the sink, scrubbing the blood clean. He carefully covered the body with a white sheet, hiding the horrific sight. Then he walked out of the operating room, his face somber but professional. He informed the nurses that the patient had not survived due to unforeseen post-operative complications. No one questioned it. Dr. Carter's word was law. How had it come to this? How had a promising young doctor, the great hope of his entire family, become a monster? It all started with the dream. The American dream. Sam was the eldest son of a working-class family in Harmony Creek, Pennsylvania, a dying Rust Belt town after the steel mill closed. He was the pride, the first in his family to go to college, and what's more, to the prestigious Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. His father worked double shifts, his mother took on extra cleaning jobs, and they sold their old pickup truck to fund his dream. The day he graduated, the whole town celebrated. Samuel Carter, their boy, had become a doctor. He was accepted into a residency program at a prestigious private hospital in Boston, and everyone believed he was on the verge of making millions. But reality was much crueler. A resident's salary, even at a prestigious hospital, was barely enough to cover the high cost of living in Boston. Worse was the colossal student debt, over $200,000, a burden he would carry for decades. The calls from his family became more frequent. His mother needed a new roof. His sister needed money for her daughter's braces. His father, though he never said it, had eyes full of expectation. He was their savior. Desperation began to gnaw at Sam. He started small, a $50 bill that fell out of a wealthy patient's wallet. A watch left on a bedside table. He told himself they would never notice, and they didn't. Until the day technology mogul Alistair Sterling was admitted to the emergency room. He was fabulously wealthy, powerful, and wore a pair of classic gold-rimmed glasses. Sam recognized them instantly. They were a pair of Cartiers, a limited edition worth tens of thousands of dollars. All day while caring for Mr. Sterling, Sam's mind revolved around the glasses. That money could solve all his problems. That night, on his final rounds, Sam found Mr. Sterling fast asleep. The internal struggle was brief. He glanced down the empty hallway, and then, quick as a flash, he gently lifted the glasses from the man's face and slipped them into his lab coat pocket. The next morning, he received the news. Mr. Sterling had passed away during the night. A sudden heart attack. Sam's heart pounded, a mixture of guilt and relief. No one would know. But the Sterling family arrived. They searched everywhere. My father had one last wish. Mr. Sterling's son told Sam to be buried with his glasses. They were a memento from my grandparents. Those words were a knife to Sam's conscience, but it was too late. He lied, saying he couldn't find them. That evening, in his small, cluttered apartment surrounded by collection notices, Sam took out the glasses. The light glinted off the golden frames, creating a seductive halo. He wondered what was so special about them. Just to try them on once, he thought, then I'll sell them. He put the glasses on, and that was when his world changed forever. Through the lenses, his room was no longer empty. A woman stood right in front of him, her face streaked with blood, her eyes and teeth dripping with a dark red liquid. Sam screamed a silent scream trapped in his throat. He tried to rip the glasses from his face, but they seemed fused to his skin. He clawed, he pulled, he tried to break the frames. It was useless. They had become a part of him. Trapped behind the damned glasses, he could only stare at the horrifying face of the demon smiling at him, a smile that promised both salvation and eternal damnation. Sam didn't sleep that night. He sat huddled in the corner of his bathtub, the only place in the apartment without a reflective surface. Every time he glanced at the bathroom mirror, the black screen of the television, or even the back of a metal spoon, she was there. The woman with the bloody face said nothing, just stared at him with eyes like two bottomless pits. Her smile seemed to widen a cruel curve, promising unspeakable horrors. He had tried everything. Cooking oil soap, even a pair of pliers from his father's old toolbox. The glasses wouldn't budge the gold frames, feeling as if they were fused to his temporal bones. Dawn broke over Boston, the first rays of sun piercing through the window blinds, staining the room red. Sam knew he couldn't hide forever. Not going to work meant getting fired. Getting fired meant his student loans would swallow him whole, that his family's dream would turn to dust. The fear of failure in the real world was strangely greater than the supernatural horror that clung to him. He had to face it. He hastily threw on his scrubs, trying not to look in the mirror. He pulled a surgical cap down low, hoping it might partially conceal the strange glasses. As he walked out the door, he felt as if everyone on the street was staring at him, seeing the demon breathing down his neck. His heart hammered against his ribs, but he forced his legs to carry him toward the hospital. The workday passed in a blur of extreme anxiety. He avoided eye contact, answered questions curtly, and spent most of his time in the doctor's lounge pretending to review charts. The image of the bloody woman remained in his peripheral vision, a persistent ghost only he could see. And then the first strange thing happened. His phone rang. It was an unknown number from a bank where he had applied to refinance his student loans months ago and had been flatly rejected. "Hello, Dr. Carter," a cheerful female voice said. "I'm calling from Boston National Bank. We're pleased to inform you that your application for the Medical Professional Student Debt Relief Program has been approved with a special introductory interest rate. You can stop by our branch to finalize the paperwork at your convenience." Sam was stunned. "But I received a rejection email last week." "Oh, there must have been a system error, doctor. Your profile is excellent. We're very excited to work with you." Before Sam could process this, another strange thing happened. Dr. Albright, the head of surgery, a notoriously stern man who rarely gave out praise, clapped him on the shoulder in the hallway. "Good work, Carter. Your diagnosis on that complex appendicitis case this morning was spot on. I hadn't considered that possibility. You've got a sharp eye." Sam was dumbfounded. He didn't even remember how he'd diagnosed that case. The answer had seemingly sprung from his lips, as if someone had been whispering in his ear. Over the next few days, the good fortune continued. A research grant application he had submitted and long forgotten was suddenly approved. He found a much better apartment for an unbelievably low rent. Every door seemed to be opening for him, and at the same time, the image of the woman in the glasses began to fade. She was still there, but more like a distant memory than a terrifying presence. Sam started to feel more confident. Maybe it was just a stress-induced hallucination. Maybe it was all just a coincidence. A few days later, while showering, he accidentally rubbed his temple hard. He heard a faint click. The glasses loosened. Heart pounding, he carefully removed them. This time, they came off easily. He placed them on the sink, an overwhelming sense of relief washing over him. He looked in the mirror, and for the first time in nearly a week, he saw only his own face. Tired, hyant, but his. The world was normal again. But normality didn't last. The very next morning, the bank called back. "Dr. Carter, we are so sorry, but there was a major error in the system. Your application was in fact not eligible. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience." At the hospital, Dr. Albright called him into his office. "Carter, I've reviewed that appendicitis case. You got lucky. Your diagnosis was unsubstantiated and could have endangered the patient. Don't let overconfidence be your downfall." The call from the research fund management came in the afternoon. "Funding has been unexpectedly cut. We regret to inform you that your grant has been rescinded." Everything collapsed as quickly as it had been built. Hope was extinguished, replaced by the return of a harsh reality, debt pressure, and a bleak future. That evening, Sam sat alone in his shabby apartment, staring at the gold glasses on the table. They were no longer a cursed object. They were an offer, a path. He understood. The glasses weren't a curse. They were a tool, a contract. They brought him success, recognition, wealth. But they came with a price. Though he didn't yet know what that price was, he knew he couldn't go back to his old life. He had tasted power, however briefly. His hand no longer trembled as he picked up the glasses. He looked at his distorted reflection in the lenses. This was a choice between a life of struggle and integrity and a life of splendor and sin. With a decisive gesture, he put the glasses back on. Instantly, the world seemed to brighten. He felt a powerful surge of energy flow through his veins. He looked in the mirror. The bloody woman was back clearer than ever. She was standing right behind him, and this time when she smiled, Sam was no longer afraid. He smiled back. The pact was sealed. 2 years passed. 2 years that transformed Dr. Samuel Carter from a debt-ridden resident into a living legend in Boston's medical community. The gold glasses didn't just bring luck. They seemed to have merged with his mind, granting him a near supernatural talent. He could look at a patient and see the illness hidden deep within them, as if reading an open book. His hands in the operating room moved with the precision of a flawless machine. The most complex surgeries became simple under his scalpel. The most difficult diagnoses were solved in minutes. Money and fame followed like a shadow. The wealthy patients he saved repaid him with enormous donations. Venture capitalists lined up to fund his vision. Soon, the Carter Institute for Advanced Medicine rose a gleaming tower of glass and steel on the banks of the Charles River, a symbol of his extraordinary success. He paid off his parents' debts, bought them a new house in Florida, and sent his siblings to the best schools. He was the embodiment of the American dream, a rags-to-riches story everyone admired. He grew accustomed to the woman's presence in the glasses. She became his silent companion, a faint ghost at the edge of his vision, a constant reminder of the source of his power. He no longer feared her. He had almost forgotten the terror of that first night. Until one evening. Sam was standing in his penthouse office at the Carter Institute. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass wall, the lights of Boston glittered like a carpet of diamonds. He was sipping a fine whiskey, the kind that would have cost him a month's salary 2 years prior. He looked at his reflection in the glass, a successful man in an expensive Italian suit with perfectly coiffed hair and his signature gold glasses. He had achieved it all. "Are you enjoying it, Samuel?" The voice rang inside his head, cold and sharp as a shard of ice. Sam flinched, nearly dropping his glass. He turned. The woman was sitting on his mahogany desk, clearer than ever before. The blood on her face seemed fresh, dripping onto the perfectly polished wood. Her smile revealed red-stained teeth. 2 years, she said, her tone like a creditor coming to collect. 2 years of endless wealth and glory. Did you really think it was a gift? No, Samuel. It was a loan. And now it's time to pay the interest. Sam, though his heart was hammering in his chest, tried to maintain a calm exterior. The arrogance forged from 2 years of success wouldn't allow him to show weakness. "Interest I can pay any price. Name it." The woman's smile widened. "Oh, I like your confidence. Very good. Because this price cannot be paid with money." She vanished from the desk and reappeared directly in front of him, her icy breath on his face. "The price is paid with life, with fresh blood." Before Sam could react, his pager beeped. An emergency. A 19-year-old college football player with a knee injury from practice. A simple arthroscopic knee surgery. "That boy," the woman whispered. "He is your first payment." Sam felt a chill run down his spine. "No, it's just a minor surgery. He'll be fine." "Exactly," the woman agreed. "He's perfectly healthy. Perfect for a meal. Go to the operating room, Samuel. I'll be waiting." In operating room 1, the most modern and sterile space in the Carter Institute, everything was ready. The young man was already under anesthesia, lying peacefully on the table. The team of nurses and assisting physicians moved efficiently around him, their professionalism a testament to the empire Sam had built. But Sam could only feel the cold presence of the woman standing in the corner of the room, a shadow only he could see. "Begin," her voice urged in his head. Sam's hand trembled as he picked up the scalpel. He took a deep breath. He was Dr. Carter. He was in control here. "Everyone out," he commanded, his voice sharp. "I need absolute concentration. I'll handle this one myself." His team, surprised, obeyed without question. They were used to the eccentric demands of the genius doctor. When the door closed, it was just Sam, the unconscious patient, and his demon. "Now," the woman said, her voice filled with delighted anticipation, "pay your debt." A debt paid in lifeblood. His lifeblood. Drink. "This is insane," Sam whispered, taking a step back. "I'm a doctor. I'm not a—" "You are whatever I want you to be," she interrupted. And suddenly she was beside him, her ice-cold hand gripping his hand that held the scalpel. A primal, disgusting hunger rose from deep within him, a hunger he had felt once before. But this time it was 100 times stronger. He was no longer in control of his own body. His hand moved on its own, making a precise incision on the patient's knee. Blood began to flow. Its scent filled the air, unbearably sweet and intoxicating. He bent down and his reason plunged into darkness. When he came to his mouth, tasted metallic and thick. He was kneeling on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. He looked up at the operating table. The young athlete's body was desiccated, a skeleton wrapped in wrinkled gray skin. It looked like a mummy excavated from an ancient tomb. "What have I done?" Sam gagged, the taste of blood and whiskey mixing in his throat. The woman laughed, a satisfied sound that echoed through the room. "You've made your first interest payment. There will be many more. Don't worry. Tell his family there were complications, that his heart stopped. Your word is truth, Samuel. Your word has the power to cover everything." She vanished, leaving Sam alone with his crime. He staggered to his feet, looking at his reflection in the stainless steel surface of an instrument cabinet. A monster stared back at him, mouth smeared with blood, eyes wild behind the golden glasses. He had built this empire. He had saved hundreds of lives. One life in exchange for all of this. It was a price, he told himself, a terrible price. But it was a price he was now willing to pay. The silence after the woman's laughter was more terrifying than the laughter itself. Sam stood alone in the operating room, the air thick with the smell of blood and guilt. For a moment, panic nearly consumed him. He wanted to scream, to run, to tear the glasses from his face and pray it was all a nightmare. But then an extraordinary coldness washed over him. It wasn't the chill of fear, but of calculation. His dream, his empire, the life he had built from the ashes of desperation, it was all at risk. He would not let it fall. Not now. He moved with mechanical calm. He meticulously cleaned the scene, disposing of the bloodied instruments in the biohazard bin. He typed his notes into the medical record, his fingers flying across the keyboard, fabricating a complex narrative of an unexpected allergic reaction to the anesthetic, leading to an irreversible massive cardiac arrest. The complex medical terminology flowed from his mind, supplied by the seemingly bottomless well of knowledge from the glasses. The story was perfect, airtight. Then he went out to face the boy's family. They were waiting in a private room, their faces etched with worry. The boy's mother, a woman with kind eyes, shot to her feet when she saw him. "Dr. Carter, how is my son?" she asked, her voice trembling. Sam looked her directly in the eye, his face a mask of perfectly rehearsed grief. He didn't have to try to be convincing. When he spoke, his words seemed to carry a supernatural weight, bending reality around them. "I am so sorry," he began. "We did everything we could. There was an unforeseen complication, an extremely rare reaction. His heart just couldn't take it." Agony erupted in the room. Sobs, cries, the wail of "why," but through it all not a single person expressed doubt. No one questioned the genius doctor. They clung to his every word, to the complex scientific explanations he offered, as if they were the only life rafts in a storm of grief. He was Dr. Carter. His word was truth. He had covered his first murder with a shroud woven from prestige and demonic power. That night in his luxurious penthouse overlooking the city, Sam couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the young man's face, not as he lay on the table, but from his file, smiling, full of life. He heard the woman's ghoulish laughter echoing in the dark corners of the apartment. He ran to the bathroom and retched until he was empty. He looked in the mirror, disgusted with himself. "You're a monster," he whispered to his reflection. And from behind that reflection, the bloody woman appeared, placing a cold hand on his shoulder. "Yes," her voice echoed in his head. "But you are a rich and successful monster. Isn't that what you always wanted?" He turned to look at the framed awards on his wall, the articles praising him in magazines like Time and Forbes. He thought of his parents' house on the coast, of his sister's smile when she received her tuition check. This was the price. A terrible blood-soaked price, but the one he had chosen to pay. The disgust slowly gave way to a ruthless determination. He would not turn back. The following months fell into a grim rhythm. Once a month, like clockwork, the hunger would rise, a gnawing in his gut and an irresistible compulsion. And each month the pact demanded a payment. Sam became adept at choosing. He sought out patients for minor procedures, young healthy individuals, often with few family ties. People whose disappearance wouldn't make too many waves. An exchange student with appendicitis, a backpacker with a broken arm, a young office worker for a tonsillectomy. They all became sad statistics in the Carter Institute's impossibly low mortality rate, rare complications that no one could explain. And as the demon within him grew strong on blood, the public image of St. Samuel Carter shone ever brighter. He founded the Carter Foundation for Children's Health, donating millions to pediatric hospitals. He ran free clinics in impoverished neighborhoods. He became a beloved philanthropist, an inspirational speaker, a symbol of hope. For every life he took in the darkness, he saved 100 more in the light, building a fortress of benevolence to hide the monster within. He was a killer and a savior, as in one. He avoided intimate relationships. Women were drawn to his power and charm, but he always kept a safe distance. He couldn't let anyone get too close. couldn't let them see the emptiness in his eyes when he took off his mask at night. One evening, about a year after the first murder, he was preparing for a charity gala. He stood before the mirror adjusting his bow tie. He noticed something strange. He hadn't aged a day. Not a new wrinkle, not a single gray hair. If anything, his skin seemed smoother, his eyes clearer than a year ago. The glasses didn't just give him knowledge and power. They were preserving him, keeping him in a state of perpetual youth fed by the life force he stole. The beep of his pager interrupted his thoughts. Another emergency. A young woman, an artist, had fallen off a ladder and dislocated her shoulder. A simple procedure. The hunger churned in his stomach. He straightened his bow tie, looking his reflection dead in the eye. Behind him, the bloody woman smiled in approval. Sam felt no guilt anymore, only emptiness and a cold sense of inevitability. He slipped his pristine white lab coat over his expensive tuxedo, the mask of the saint ready. "Time to go to work," he whispered, and walked out the door toward his next victim. 40 years passed in what felt like a blink of an eye for Samuel Carter. While the world outside transformed childhood friends grew old, his parents and some of his siblings passed away, Sam remained unchanged. He was frozen in the body of a 30-year-old man, a medical miracle the media never tired of celebrating. He fabricated a story of a pioneering gene therapy, a lie reinforced by the glass's power, and the world believed it. But immortality was a lonely prison. He couldn't visit his only son, now a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, because his absurdly youthful appearance would raise unanswerable questions. He lived as an island surrounded by admiration but utterly isolated from the warmth of human connection. The mask of the saint had grown heavier than ever. One cool October day, a wind from the past blew into Boston. A woman named Sarah brought her 17-year-old grandson Leo to the Carter Institute. The boy had broken his arm playing football in a school tournament. When Sam read the name on the chart, Sarah Kowalski, a distant memory flickered. Sarah Kowalski, his high school girlfriend from Harmony Creek, Pennsylvania, the first girl he had ever kissed after the prom. He walked into the examination room and saw her. The once golden hair was now streaked with silver, the lines of time and worry etched around eyes that still held a spark of familiarity. She looked at him, and a flicker of confusion crossed her face. "Dr. Carter," she said, "you look so familiar." "I get that a lot," Sam replied, his voice cool and distant. He couldn't let the past touch the present. And then the hunger hit fierce and cruel. It was nearly time for a payment. He looked at Leo, a strong, vibrant young man full of life with a bright smile even through the pain. He was the perfect victim. For a moment, Sam hesitated. This was Sarah's grandson. But then he saw his reflection in a metal chart holder, saw the bloody woman nodding in approval, and his cold resolve won. His empire was built on sacrifices like this. There would be no exceptions. "It's a simple fracture setting and a cast," he told Sarah, his voice filled with its powerful reassurance. "We'll give him a light sedative so he won't feel any pain. Everything will be fine." In the procedure room, once the door was closed, Sam did what he had to do. Quickly, mercilessly. When he emerged, his face was once again the familiar mask of sorrow. He approached Sarah, who was pacing nervously. "Sarah," he began, using her first name intentionally to feign intimacy, "I have terrible news. There was a complication. A fat embolism exceedingly rare in a fracture like this. We lost him." Sarah stared at him. The tears Sam expected didn't come. Instead, her eyes narrowed. She wasn't some Boston socialite mesmerized by his reputation. She was Sarah from Harmony Creek. She knew Samuel Carter, the son of a steel worker, not some god. His wall of demonic power seemed to fail against the shield of her memory. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible. It was just a broken arm. I want to see my grandson." Sam tried to stop her, but Sarah pushed past him and burst into the procedure room. And then she screamed. It wasn't a scream of grief. It was a scream of primal horror, a sound that ripped through the veil of illusion Sam had woven for decades. "Sammy, "What did you do to my grandson?" she shrieked, pointing at the desiccated corpse on the table. "Why does he look like a skeleton?" And as if her words were a counterspell, everyone in the hallway saw it. The nurses, the other doctors, they all froze. For the first time, they saw the horrific truth behind his lies. The veil was torn. Horror spread like wildfire. Sam stood stunned. For the first time in 40 years, his magic had failed. Driven by pure fear, he turned and ran. An angry mob chased after him, their shouts of "monster murderer" echoing through the marble halls of his empire. He bolted into his office, locked the door, and activated a secret escape route built years ago. He disappeared into the darkness beneath the city, leaving behind a hospital in chaos and a legacy of benevolence that had utterly collapsed. More decades passed. Samuel Carter became a ghost, an urban legend whispered in dark corners. He was a fugitive living off the vast fortune he had long since moved overseas. But money could not soothe the constant hunger or the gnawing loneliness. He was over 120 years old, trapped in the body of a 30-year-old. He was tired. Tired of running, tired of killing, tired of his endless existence. He longed for death. He knew he couldn't simply remove the glasses. Years ago, he had tried to throw them away, and that very day his youngest sister had died suddenly of a brain aneurysm. The glasses had bound his family to the curse. The only way to be free was for someone else to take them willingly. He devised his final plan. He checked into a rundown public hospital in a foreign city, a world away from the glamour of the Carter Institute. He used a fake name and a fabricated story of amnesia after an accident. From his hospital bed, he watched. He looked for someone like his younger self, young, intelligent, ambitious, but crushed by circumstance and desperation. And he found him. Michael, a young janitor working the night shift to pay his way through nursing school. Sam saw the fire in his eyes, the same desperate yearning to escape his fate that he once had. One night, Sam faked a seizure. Nurses and doctors rushed in. In the chaos, he skillfully dropped his glasses under the bed. A few hours later, when all was quiet, Michael came in to clean the room. He saw the glint of gold under the bed. He picked up the glasses. They felt strangely warm and inviting in his hand. He hesitated for a moment, then out of curiosity he put them on. In the bed, Sam felt it instantly. A lightness as if a great weight had been lifted. The curse was transferred. A young female doctor came in to check on him. She gasped, "My God, what's happening to you?" Sam looked at his hands. The smooth skin was rapidly wrinkling, age spots blooming like withered flowers. His hair was turning white at an alarming speed. The stolen years were coming back to collect their due. He laughed, a raspy, weak cackle of an old man. "Finally, free," he wheezed. "What are you talking about?" the doctor asked in horror, as his body began to shrivel. Sam used his last bit of strength to grab her wrist, his eyes now cloudy with age boring into hers. "Tell the janitor, the one with my eyes now," he whispered, his breath a faint wind. "Tell him the price is never worth it." And then, to the doctor's horror, Samuel Carter's body crumbled to dust, leaving a pile of gray ash on the pristine white sheets, as if he had been interred for centuries. Meanwhile, in the staff break room, Michael wiped sweat from his brow. The new glasses fit perfectly. Suddenly his phone buzzed. It was an email informing him that he had unexpectedly received a full scholarship he had applied for and forgotten about. A passing nurse patted him on the shoulder. "Hey, Michael, that idea you had for reorganizing the supply closet was brilliant. Saved us a ton of time tonight." Michael smiled, a feeling of confidence he had never known welling up inside him. He glanced at his reflection in the glass of a vending machine. For a fleeting instant, he thought he saw the figure of a woman standing behind him, a figure with a blood-streaked face and a cruel, promising smile. He blinked. There was nothing there. The cycle had begun again.